Like, for example, when I ask you if Sulla's reign as dictator was a happy time, what if I asked you about his prescriptions? What were those, and how did that impact life in Rome?
It's a program of executing those whom he perceived as enemies of the state and confiscating their property.
That was very good reading, but what does that mean?
It's like
So every day he would post a list up in the Roman Forum with names on that list. If your name was on that list, what did it mean?
You will be killed, or like everybody, like you're the enemy of the Rome.
Right, and you would be killed, and it meant if anybody killed you, you got money for that. You got a portion of the person you killed's money and house and things like that. So this was a very effective way for Sulla to get rid of his enemies, but it was probably also a very scary time to be alive. So Sulla took control, killed off his enemies, got rid of all of the popularious reforms of Marius and the Gracchi brothers before him. But then, what did he do in 81 BCE that surprised everybody, Dengmo?
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, what did he do in 81 BCE that surprised everybody? He had absolute power, and then what did he do with that power in the end?
He resigned.
Yep, he gave power back. And last class, Amber, why do we think that he gave power back in the end? He was named dictator for life. He could have stayed dictator until the day he died. Why give power back? No wrong answer, Amber. Why do you think Sulla gave power back?
I'm not sure.
William, any opinion on this?
Because he thinks he had already cleaned all his enemy and he did everything he could.
I agree. He had gotten rid of his enemies. He had made all the political changes he needed. But the next step is he really didn't want anybody to do what he did again. He didn't want other generals using their army to take over Rome and destroy the whole government. After he stepped down, he wanted to see Rome go back to the Republic. Consuls in charge, Senate, praetors, all the way down the entire cursus honorum. He's hoping against hope that by him giving up power now willingly and handing power back to the Senate, to be fair, his Senate, only with people who survived his prescriptions, that maybe Rome can survive once again as a conservative-based republic like it had before. And of course, today, along comes Julius Caesar. Raise your hand if you've heard the name Julius Caesar before. All of you. Can all of you tell me one thing that you know about Caesar? If anything at all? Can you remember anything about Caesar, Megan? What do you know about Julius Caesar?
I think, like, I heard that he's a very powerful man and he's been like Senate for a long time.
Yeah, he's probably one of the most famous people in the history of the world. In this time period, he and Cleopatra are the two names that everyone knows. Amber, what else do you know?
I just know he is a powerful person.
Yeah, based on what I just said, do you think he's going to be populares like Marius or optimates like Sulla?
Like Marius.
Yeah, he's going to be popular. He's going to be one of those generals that uses power given to him from the people to be popular with the people and his soldiers to get what he wants and get a huge power base. What else do you know, William?
He had been a dictator and also consul.
Right, he will be consul, and he will also be named dictator for life. Although he's not going to be dictator for life very long. Do you know why, Dengmo?
Because I think the Senate killed him.
Oh, how'd you know that? I don't think I've taught you that before. How do you know the Senate's going to kill him?
I don't remember where.
That's a good memory, right? Famously, the Senate murders Caesar, March 15th, 44 BCE, only after 1 year of defeating all his enemies and becoming dictator back in Rome. Essential question. Much like before, We now again are going to have two powerful generals fighting in a civil war for power that's going to help to bring down the Roman Republic. Essential question in all of your note-taking books, please. How will powerful generals like Julius Caesar and Pompey Magnus further weaken the Republic? Into your note-taking books it goes. In our pre-class video, you met both of these guys. Caesar went to Egypt and met Cleopatra because he was chasing Pompey, only to be greeted by Pompey's severed head, given to him as a gift by Egypt's pharaoh, Cleopatra's brother. Caesar then, of course, enters the scene, unhappy with what's going on in Egypt, trying to get Cleopatra back in power, starting a romantic relationship with Cleopatra, almost getting himself, Cleopatra, and his army surrounded and killed, and then winning another miraculous Caesar-type victory in Egypt before going on a little romantic cruise down the Nile with Cleopatra, before finally getting back to the task at hand of controlling the Roman government and getting back to Rome where he can actually govern, which was supposed to be his whole goal all along. How will powerful generals like Julius Caesar and Pompey Magnus further weaken the Republic? Raise your hand if you are not ready for me to go on. Let's start by meeting Caesar's friend and then enemy. This is Pompey the Great, Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus. You can just call him Pompey the Great. You don't need to know his full Roman name. Pompey was actually a little bit older than Caesar. At the beginning, he would have been the older partner in their relationship. Pompey was rich before Caesar, powerful before Caesar, consul well before Caesar. Born in 106 BCE, Caesar wasn't born until 100 BCE. If you want to compare this to the previous Marius versus Sulla civil war, you can kind of see Pompey being on the Sulla side. Although Pompey was never dictator for life, and Pompey never killed a lot of people through prescriptions and things like that, because Pompey lost. Pompey was a very famous general in Rome. He was popular, and in some regards, rightfully so. He won not one, not two, but 3 triumphs. We've talked about triumphs before, but stick it into your note-taking book right now. A triumph is like the party beyond all parties, the parade beyond all parades. If a general wins a massive, huge victory, then when they come back to Rome, they are going to have a party that's going to be bigger than you can imagine. If a general wins a triumph, then that is assurance that they are going to be remembered forever. One triumph is a massive, huge thing. Pompey had 3. And to be fair, he did deserve 2 of them. He cleared the pirates out of the Mediterranean Sea that had been robbing Roman shipping. He won back modern-day Turkey, the Anatolian Peninsula. Won some victories in the East, in the Middle East, places called Syria and Palestine, adding those to Rome. The one he's most famous for, though, is probably the one that he didn't deserve. There was a big slave rebellion led by a slave named Spartacus. There's lots of movies about this. It's a pretty famous one. However, it was another guy that worked with Pompey and Caesar named Crassus who actually did most of the work in defeating Spartacus, and Pompey kind of is seen as being stealing the triumph from Crassus. And Crassus never really seemed to forgive Pompey for this. As an Optimates general, of course, Pompey is going to be on the side with the Senate. Along with his 3 triumphs, he also was consul 3 times. Oddly enough, following the rules the first 2 times. Remember, if you were consul, you're supposed to wait 10 years before you're consul again. He will begin as Caesar's mentor, proceed as Caesar's friend, and finish as Caesar's greatest enemy, as the Roman worlds fight behind the 2 leaders to see who is going to come out victorious, Caesar or Pompey. And you already know his end because you saw the pre-class video. He's going to run away to Egypt after losing the civil war. His head's going to be cut off and presented to Caesar as a gift. And Caesar will see this gift, break down in tears, and then be very angry that Egypt thought that it could kill a person from Rome as important as Pompey. That was not the gift he wanted. Pompey the Great should be in your notes, as well as some of the major things from this slide. I've given you a few highlighted key terms. Make sure you have those. Make sure the notes are your notes, Dengmo, not copying. Notes for future Dengmo. So if I ask you next week what a triumph is, it should be easy. If I ask you to tell me a little bit about Pompey, you should have 2 or 3 things to tell me about Pompey. This is your summary, your overview of Pompey the Great before we learn about more details. Raise your hand if you are not ready to go on, or if you have any questions, please. This is a great question time. Who's got questions about Pompey? Thumbs up if you understand so far. You've got a good background on Pompey. Raise your hand if you are not ready to go on. And here he is, Gaius Julius Caesar. Born 6 years after Pompey in the year 100. Famously died on what's known as the Ides of March, the 15th of March, 44 BCE. It's very difficult, by the way, to make one overview slide on Caesar because there's so much, but I did my best. Famously, he conquered Gaul. Where's Gaul again, Megan? I can't remember. Where's Gaul? If I said we were in Gaul, where would we be today?
Like France?
It is France. Gaul was basically France, although some parts of Gaul would be in northern Italy today. Gaul was basically France. Through conquering Gaul, he massively extended Roman territory all the way north up to the English Channel, and he actually was the first ever Roman to cross the English Channel and to enter this mysterious land that we today call England. He went there twice. He also extended all the way into Germania, German-influenced territory, all the way to the Rhine River in the east. And of course, you already know, if his eventual enemy, Pompey, is going to be an optimates, and of course, Caesar is going to be a populares. Adored and loved by his troops, worshipped by the ordinary people, who he took care of. Much like Marius and much like the Gracchi brothers before him, some people accuse Caesar of being a demagogue, someone that would do anything for the people in order to get more power. Some people saw him as someone that truly understood that power was for the people, to help the people, and not with the upper class in the Senate. The age-old argument, every time we talk about Rome, there's always the same thing, right? All the way back to our early plebeian and patrician things back in the 400s BCE. It's always who's in charge, the people or the upper class, patricians, plebeians, populares, optimates, Senate or plebeian council. And of course, if the ordinary people love Caesar, who do you think's not going to like Caesar so much, William?
And Senate.
Yeah, of course. The Senate and the upper class is going to be very weary of him, as they have to be. Keep in mind, if you see someone that becomes very popular with the people, the Senate and the upper class have to be scared. Because, once again, there's more poor people in Rome, there's more middle-class people in Rome than there are very wealthy people. If Caesar has the influence over the masses of Rome, that is a massive amount of power. I wanted to give you one more thing. Actually, Caesar redid the entire calendar back then, but I think it's cool that the month of July is named after Julius Caesar. Take a moment, same as with Pompey. We're going to talk about both of these men so much. Get yourself a basic overview in your notes, so going forward, I can talk about them more freely with you, and you'll be ready to ask more questions. So interesting. Caesar wins the civil war in 48 BCE with Pompey getting killed, but those extra 4 years seem to be the difference. Pompey, if you've studied Rome, you know who Pompey is, but if you have just existed on planet Earth, you know who Caesar is. One of the most famous names of all time. I think we talked about this before too. Like, the kings of Russia were called Tsar. Tsar comes from the word Caesar. The kings of Germany were called Kaiser. Kaiser comes from the word Caesar. 2,000 years later, his name is everywhere. I'm ready for questions. Pompey questions or Caesar questions. Hit me up. What do you got?
I have a question.
Yes, Megan.
So like when Caesar and Pompey lived, the Sulla died.
One more time.
The Sulla died when like Caesar and Pompey lived.
So Sulla is actually, that's an awesome question, Megan, because Sulla is connected to both Pompey and Sulla is connected to Caesar. So remember, Sulla gave up power in 81 BCE. So if you wrote down the birth dates of both of these men, you could see how old they were when Sulla died. So by the time that Sulla was in power, Pompey was already a pretty famous military man in his 20s. Pompey actually helped to fight for Sulla and helped to capture Rome the last time and helped to make Sulla dictator for life. Caesar, on the other hand, was an enemy of Sulla because Caesar had married the daughter of one of Sulla's enemies. And when Sulla came to power, he told 18-year-old Caesar, you need to not marry this girl, find a new wife who I like from a better family. And Caesar said no. And so Julius Caesar's name actually went onto Sulla's proscription list. And Caesar was almost killed at the age of 18, thus nullifying this entire lesson. Fortunately for Caesar, number one, he was smart enough to get the heck out of Rome and out of the city. Number two, Caesar was lucky enough to come from a powerful family that was connected to Sulla, and they eventually convinced Sulla to take Caesar's name off the proscription list and allow Caesar to live. Sulla agreed, but Sulla even at that time said, I probably should not do this. I think if I don't kill this kid now, that he might do some things later that I wouldn't like. Of course, Sulla's not going to live long enough to know that he was right, but absolutely Caesar did a lot of things that Sulla would have hated. He marched on Rome like Sulla hoped no one would ever do again, and he made lots of populares, non-conservative, progressive laws that Sulla would not have liked either. Sulla allowing Caesar to live, changing history again. Awesome question, Megan. Thank you. More questions? Yes, William.
Who got the month of August named after?
Oh, you want to guess? Do you know who was Caesar's adopted son that would become the first emperor of Rome?
Cool.
His name was Octavian. Octavian was actually Caesar's great nephew, but when Caesar died, in Caesar's will, the will is the piece of paper that you write to tell people who gets what after you die. In his will, he adopted Octavian, making him his son. And then eventually, Octavian would become the first emperor of Rome. And when he was emperor, he gave himself the title Augustus, which means revered one or worshipped one. And this is where we get the month of August from Augustus, the person who ruled after Caesar, eventually ruled after Caesar. And we will learn a lot about Augustus as well. Another awesome question, William. If you ask me about who any other month is named after, though, then I'm not going to have it for you. Any more questions? I'm moving on. Raise your hand if you are not ready for the next slide. Amber, is your hand up? Yeah, what do you got?
Why July is named after him?
Because he was the one that controlled the calendar at the time. He had a job called Pontifex Maximus, which meant he was the one controlling the calendar, and he made changes to the calendar and added some months on, was able to name some after him. I don't actually know the exact date that July and August got their names, so I don't know if it occurred during his lifetime or after, but because the calendar was changed at that time from the old system to the new system, they were able to put some months in and name them after these guys. I don't know the exact details though, but these are the most famous people in the world at the time as well. Good one too. Any other questions, guys? Raise your hand if you are not ready for me to move on. Look at Rome, guys. Remember at the beginning of our lessons not so long ago, Rome was here, this little dot. Look what Rome is going to be by the time Caesar dies. By the time Caesar dies, Rome is going to be this. And after just a few years of empire, by the time we get to the year 167 CE, at the height of Rome's power, look at it. It goes north all the way to Scotland, all the way to the Atlantic Ocean in the west, to the Sahara Desert in the south, into Asia, in the east. As you can see, Rome is now in control of every single inch of land touching the Mediterranean Sea by the time it reaches the height of its power. It truly became the superpower of the known world. Cool map, huh? I'll put this in the WeChat group after if you want to check it out more. Questions so far? Now, this is a little bit tough for me because some things I have to teach a little bit out of order, and I have to skip some things also. To teach you everything about Pompey and Caesar and all the accomplishments, all the wars would not be possible. So I've picked some important things to take us through the story in the way that'll best help you. We're going to begin by talking about something called the First Triumvirate. I would actually say that I'm going to restructure this right now. I would say the first thing that you should do is put the word triumvirate into your note-taking book, and I'm going to move it to the top of the slide right now for you guys because I think that's a better place for it. I think that's the obvious place to start. A triumvirate is a group of three people. Tri, T-R-I, means three. So a triumvirate is a group of three people who share power. These three men, from a period of time from 60 to 53 BCE, are going to basically have all the power in Rome. Now, this triumvirate was not an official, recognized by law alliance. It was unofficial, at the beginning actually secret. But by these three men working together, they basically had all the power in Rome. The second thing to put in your note-taking book is I'm going to introduce you to the third person in the triumvirate. He's not quite as famous as Caesar and Pompey. He's the guy I talked about earlier who Pompey stole the triumph from when defeating the slave rebellion. His name, Marcus Licinius Crassus. You can just put Crassus in your note-taking books, good enough. As you can see, Crassus is older than all of them. 9 years older than Pompey, 15 years older than Caesar. Crassus actually should have been the most important and famous of all of them, but he never quite got there. But Crassus did have something. Crassus had money. He was the richest man in Rome at the time. He lent Caesar money to help him rise to power. Without Crassus's money, Caesar would never have been able to enter into the cursus honorum. Caesar borrowed massive amounts of money from Crassus. One thing that always bothered Crassus is he never got the triumph like Pompey did. He wanted the triumph, the big party for winning a big battle. Crassus and Pompey worked together to defeat Spartacus, the man I mentioned earlier, the person who led the slave rebellion. The name of it was the Third Servile War. Servile, servant, kind of goes back to the word slave somehow. And this was a big deal. Spartacus had united lots of slaves in Italy, and slaves outnumbered Roman citizens. This army had weapons, they were organized, they could have easily taken down some more major cities without the defeats that were handed to them by Crassus. Crassus is the one that gave them the biggest defeats. Pompey came in and kind of finished things up after Crassus had already defeated them. But Pompey was the one that went in and took the triumph. Pompey is the one that had the control over the Senate, and the Senate voted for him instead. Crassus really didn't forgive him, and Crassus is going to never stop trying to get this triumph. It was such a big deal to get a triumph. There are many rich Romans, but not many Romans that would have a triumph. A triumph means you are immortal. You're remembered forever. Crassus was consul, though. He served as consul with Pompey in the year 70 BCE. And of course, he combined with Caesar and Pompey to form the First Triumvirate starting in 60 BCE. I told you Caesar and Pompey were friends for a while, and it makes sense. Look at them, guys, working together. These three men, if they cannot fight each other and compromise, nothing can stop them. They all control a particular part of Rome. They all have a particular thing that makes them so valuable to each other. For example, what does Caesar have, Amber? Oh, Amber, you there? Yes. Amber, what does Caesar have? What part of the Roman people does Caesar have control over? Remember, he's popularis, so
people loved him.
yeah, loved him. And the people that are going to love him are going to be the regular people. He's popularis. He's for the commoners, the regular citizens, and for his soldiers, of course. What about Pompey? Pompey going to be popular with, Dangmo?
The Senate?
Yeah, the Senate, the patricians, the upper class. So Caesar's got the regular people. Pompey's got the old nobility and the upper class. What do they need Crassus for, William?
Yeah, for money.
Yeah, Crassus can pay for everything. You guys are great. Exactly. Crassus could pay for everything. Take a moment. Once again, a really important slide. You guys did the deeper thinking very well today, too. I was going to send you off to your breakout rooms for that one, but I want to get through a little bit more today before doing an activity. While you're finishing your notes, I will read this blurb on the top. The First Triumvirate was an extra-legal alliance. That means it wasn't officially legal. Formed in 60 BCE by Caesar, Pompey, and Crassus. Pompey and Crassus had been consuls in 70, but had later fallen out over questions of status and prestige. Caesar, who was younger, and something of a protege of Crassus. That means that Caesar looked at Crassus like a teacher. Caesar looked at Crassus like someone that could help him rise up. Remember, Crassus let Caesar borrow lots of money. Caesar, who was a protege of Crassus, brought Crassus and Pompey back together. Each brought something to the table. Caesar led the populares, Pompey led the optimates, and Crassus was the richest man in Rome and led the merchant class, called the equites. Caesar sealed the deal by giving his daughter Julia as Pompey's wife, bringing them together, and thus forming the First Triumvirate, who would have absolute power in Rome until it falls apart, and we'll talk later about why it falls apart. Not quite yet. Questions so far? Yes, William, I knew you'd have something for me. What you got?
So Crassus and Pompey, the relationship between them is better than the relationship of Caesar and Crassus.
Caesar and Crassus had a very strong relationship even before the First Triumvirate started, because Caesar was so much younger than Crassus that Caesar at that point was seen as being below Crassus, I would say. For example, if you remember in the Cursus Honorum, there's a position called aedile, where like one of the things you do is you pay for lots of public games and stuff in Rome and for entertainment for the people. And remember, aediles had to pay for these games and festivals out of their own pocket with their own money. Caesar was an aedile, but he didn't have enough money for these things. Who do you think gave him the money so that he could become a popular aedile?
Crassus.
You got it, exactly. So Caesar and Crassus had a very good relationship at this point. Crassus and Pompey earlier had a good relationship, but Crassus, over the issue of Pompey stealing his triumph, as well as other issues, Crassus thought he should be the big man in town, not Pompey, because he was the older statesman, the richer statesman. So Crassus was kind of jealous of Pompey's success, even though Pompey was 10 years younger than Crassus. But Caesar was able to bring Pompey and Crassus back together and explaining to them both that if the three of them could work together, they would have unchecked, unparalleled power and be able to control all aspects of Roman society. How did I do? Make sense? Am I speaking too fast?
No, it's okay.
More questions?
Did he still alive when Caesar and Pompey were fighting?
Oh, you're going to make me give it away. No, Crassus is going to die first. Crassus dying is what's going to break up Pompey and Caesar. Crassus is going to go and try to win his triumph, and he's going to get killed on the battlefield trying to get it, unfortunately. Good question, too. You gave away the ending, though, but I don't mind telling you. Awesome. What else you guys got? Any more questions? Take a look at your notebooks. Read a few of your key terms. Make sure that you understand them. I will ask you next week about them. I do every time, so make sure you've got them down. There'll be a review quiz as well. And I'm nice. All my review quiz questions are about bold key terms. Raise your hand if you are not ready for me to go on. Thumbs up if you feel comfortable so far. We've talked a lot, but the main things, you got to know who Caesar Pompey and Crassus were, and you got to know why they came together to form the First Triumvirate. Don't forget triumvirate, because later there's going to be a second triumvirate with 3 different people. Don't forget what a triumvirate is. 3 people sharing power. You're going to need that again and again. Triumvirate's an important word for learning about the fall of the Republic. All right, I'm going to finally set you guys off into your breakout rooms to do your activity. Your question is going to be a simple yet complicated one. I taught you what brought the First Triumvirate together. I want you to talk about with your partner what is going to make the triumvirate fall. Why was the First Triumvirate doomed to fall? Why was it that no matter what happened, there's no way it could have lasted for a very long time? I'm not going to give you more clues. I've given you a lot of clues already, I believe. Cool? Why was the First Triumvirate doomed to fail? Going to automatically decide. Mr. Jewel, our web designer's here, so I'll put him in one. So let's have Dangmo and Megan. All right, so we got Amber and William, we got Dangmo and Megan. I'm going to give you 2 minutes and 46 seconds. Have fun. On your mark, get set, go. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Why do you think the First Triumvirate was doomed to fall? I'll start with you, Dangmo, working our way up from bottom to top. What was one reason you think the First Triumvirate just couldn't make it?
Probably because, like, since Rome is expanding, they'll fight for which land they get.
Wow, I wasn't expecting that one off the bat, but you are correct. Which land they want to be governor of, which land they want to be in charge of was a major deal, actually. In fact, after Caesar was consul, they tried to make him governor of a province he didn't want to be governor of, and he had to fight to be governor of another place. Great start. Amber, what's another reason?
Maybe they were different in opinions.
Yeah, of course. All of them have different things behind them. Remember, Caesar's Popularis, Pompey's Optimatus. They have different goals, different aspirations. They have power over different aspects of Roman society. It would be very difficult for them to keep compromising throughout their entire careers. Megan, what's another reason?
Like I'm mostly the same as Damo and Amber. Like they will fight, like when their choices is different, cause like there's 3 people of them, so maybe like they will think of different things.
Right, and for a while they did it. They were able to say, well, we want this, okay, I'll support you in having this if you'll support me in having this, and they were able to work together, compromise, understanding that they were so powerful together. But you and Amber are both right. In the end, it was a very fragile relationship that could be broken quite easily if something fell out of place, which, as William talked about earlier, is going to come when Crassus dies. William?
Maybe they got some maybe small fight at first, and for some reason they fixed, and after that maybe another thing like some importance in between them broke.
That's yeah, William, it's an excellent prediction, and it's going to be exactly like that. Because after Caesar serves as consul in the year 60 BCE, he's going to be governor of Gaul. And while in Gaul, he's going to do some things that some people are going to think are okay and are great for Rome, and some people are going to say are horrible. And while he's doing it, his victories are going to get him more famous and more popular. And of course, this is going to worry Pompey in the Senate. And the problems are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger until Caesar goes full Sulla and takes his army and marches on Rome. You guys are right there for it. I like this quote right here. Can you read this for me, please, Dangmo?
If you must break the law, do it to seize power. In all other cases, observe it.
What does that tell you anything about Caesar, Dangmo? He's saying if you must break the law, it's got to be to do something big, like seize power, right? Otherwise, follow the law. Why do you think Caesar is saying something like that? Do you think it's telling you about what he might do in the future?
He might want to become like emperor or king.
Well, he might break the law to seize power too, right? A little bit of a foreshadowing. Essential question, same as before. How will powerful generals like Caesar and Pompey further weaken the Republic? We're moving along very well. Let's keep going. You guys have been awesome today. You do not need to take any IQ for our video on Marcus Licinius Crassus. This is just an awesome song from Horrible Histories about Crassus being super rich. You sit back and enjoy things there. For example, when you were listening to it, one of the things to notice is that he backed Sulla. Remember, Crassus is older than Pompey and Caesar. During the later stages of the Sulla-Marius Civil War, Crassus was already in his mid-30s, and he backed the winner, Sulla, which helped him to get richer and richer. There's a lot of stories about Crassus and how he made himself even more wealthy. But my favorite one is that Crassus had enough money to start a fire brigade. He had people that could respond to fires and put them out in Rome. Sound like a good thing, right, Megan? He had firemen in Rome. Back then, there usually were not organized fire brigades to put out fires. But when the fires started and Crassus told his firemen to go to the fire, what do you think they did before they put out the fire? Anyone want to guess? Do you think they would just go and put out the fire because they were nice people? What do you think they asked the owners of the house first before they put out the fire?
Maybe ask for money.
Yes, they said, how much money will you pay us if we stop this fire in your home? How much is your home worth to you? So he had a fire brigade, but he was using it to make more and more money. He even paid for the army that defeated Spartacus in the Third Servile War. So that probably made him even more unhappy that Pompey got the triumph and not you. Sorry, and not him. Can you read that quote for me, please, Amber? In the big AZ quotes at the bottom.
Greed is but a word, jealous man inflict upon the ambitious.
Right. Greed is but a word. Jealous men inflict upon the ambitious. Marcus Licinius Crassus. There's 3 words there you got to know. Greed, jealous, and ambitious. And this will tell you a lot about the man. Who knows what greed means? If someone's greedy, what does that mean about them? If someone's greedy, what does that mean?
They don't like to share.
Yeah, or they don't like to share and they want a lot, like it's never enough, right? So Crassus is saying that people call him greedy, but he's not really greedy because the people that call him greedy are jealous. What does jealous mean? You want to try, Megan? What does jealous mean?
I'm not sure how to describe this word, but I can give an example. It's
Yeah,
like,
an example.
maybe you see your boyfriend and a girl like sitting together and you're jealous.
Right, because that girl is taking the boyfriend's attention. Right. Jealous means like when somebody has something and you want it. So the reason that you're mad at them is because they have something you don't. So he's saying people are calling him greedy, not because he's greedy, but because they're jealous of him, because he's not really greedy, he's just ambitious. Ambitious is maybe the toughest of these words. Anyone know what ambitious means? Ambitious is when you have goals, when you have things that you want to rise to, like you want more power, you want more money, you want to keep rising higher and higher and higher. Crassus is saying he's a very ambitious man who wanted to keep getting more power in society, wanted to keep achieving more great things, and wanted to keep getting more money to do these things with. So he's saying greed is but a word jealous men inflict upon the ambitious. He's saying that people are calling him greedy, not because he's greedy, but because he's ambitious and he works harder than them and he does more than them to get more money and to get more power. So what do you think this quote tells you about Crassus, William? What does this tell you about the man? What kind of person was he?
He was a clever man.
Clever for sure. Ambitious for sure. Also, I think it shows you he's confident, right? He could have a lot of people say bad things about him, but he is sure that he's doing the right thing. He's not having any problem with himself getting richer and richer and more powerful and more powerful. However, in the end, my friends, this ambition is going to be the end of him because no matter how much he had, he always wanted more. And he could never forget about the fact that he had never gotten his triumph. Let's talk about the things that are going to make Caesar super famous. Let's talk about Gaul. So we've skipped over a bit of Caesar's early political career. If you'll remember, Caesar rose to power going up the cursus honorum, much like other people. He served as quaestor, aedile, praetor, and consul. He also won the job as head of the religion of Rome for life, Pontifex Maximus. He was already a pretty powerful figure, but remember, people that rise up the cursus honorum are not trying to get to the top of the cursus honorum, they're trying to become a governor after. It's not about being consul, it's about being proconsul. Because remember, getting up that cursus honorum is expensive. You got to buy votes. You got to be corrupt. You got to pay the right people. You got to pay for things that the people want, like shows, entertainment, and festivals. By the time you become consul, you could be quite poor. It's what you do after you're consul that oftentimes is going to make you rich again. After Caesar was consul, the Senate didn't like him. The Senate saw Caesar as a too powerful popularis general. And they did something pretty tricky. They tried to make him proconsul of the province of Italy. Italy, of course, is where Rome is. There's no money to be made there. It's right next to Rome. Everyone's watching what you're doing. There's no one to fight. There's no one to take over. There's no spoils of war to be won. This was the Senate insulting Caesar. Caesar, of course, didn't let them get away with that, and he instead got two provinces in Gaul, north of Italy, and of course, the north of Gaul was still run by Gauls. So Caesar saw a chance here to take over more land. So after serving as consul, Caesar would become a proconsul and was made governor of Gaul. He was actually made governor of two places in Gaul, but Gaul's enough for now. Main thing to put in your notes first is that after his year as consul, the First Triumvirate helped him to become governor of Gaul. And this is where Caesar is going to spend a lot of time. Remember that usually a governor before this would be governor for 1 year. Caesar's going to be in Gaul for almost 10 years altogether before he's done. Caesar became famous for winning many battles against Gaul. And every time he won battles, he extended Roman territory. He got richer, he got more famous, and his soldiers liked him more. Because when they won, they got to take the things from the people they defeated. Many times people accuse Caesar of picking fights. Picking a fight means that the other side maybe didn't want to fight, but Caesar would do things to get him to fight, because that way he would have an excuse to defeat them, get money, get riches, get power, get glory, get fame. And Gaul, to be fair, wasn't very hard. Caesar had a professional, organized Roman army. The Gauls were not organized. They were not united. There were many, 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 many tribes in Gaul. Look at this map. Here's Gaul. Every one of these little names here is the name of a different tribe in Gaul. Caesar is governor down here, but he keeps pushing up further and further into Gaul, taking over more and more land, until he runs in to this tribe, the Arverni. Because the chief of the Arverni is a man named Vercingetorix, right here. He's the next name to put in your notes. And Vercingetorix did what no other Gallic chieftain had done before. He got the Gauls to stop fighting each other and to come together and unite. And in doing so, almost destroyed Caesar. He actually defeated Caesar at a battle called the Battle of Gergovia, 52 BCE. This was Caesar's biggest loss in Gaul for the entire time he was there. Unfortunately for Vercingetorix, he did not finish the job. And as Pompey is later going to learn that if you defeat Caesar, you better finish him then. Otherwise, he's going to get away, he's going to build another army, and he's going to come back after you. Vercingetorix did not complete the victory by capturing Caesar or killing Caesar. And actually, just a few weeks after defeating Caesar at the Battle of Gergovia, Caesar is going to win one of the craziest, most unbelievable, impossible military victories I'm ever going to show you at the Battle of Elysia. For me, Caesar's victory at the Battle of Elysia is even bigger than Hannibal's victory at Cannae that we learned about before. Even better than Hannibal's victory at Lake Trasimene or the Trebia River. Hannibal's famous for these. I think Caesar's victory at Elysia shows an amount of imagination, genius, and just straight bravery, because he was leading his own attacks there when they should have been all killed. At the Battle of Elysia, Caesar and all of his soldiers should have been done. He should have died, his army should have been killed or sold into slavery, and this should be the end of Caesar. Instead, through the story I'm about to tell you, he achieves one of the most famous victories in Roman or world history. Get those two battles into your notes, please. Battle of Gergovia and Battle of Elysia. Both of them are around September in the year 52 BCE. Towards the end of his time there. This is the last stand of the Gauls to not let Rome take them over. And this is the last chance that Caesar has to finish the Gauls off and to hopefully make Gaul part of Rome. Interestingly enough, while you guys are taking your notes on those, I'll tell you a little story, is that no matter how many victories Caesar won in Gaul, the Senate refused to make these places part of Rome. The Senate would say, no, you didn't have our permission, so we're not going to make these officially part of Rome. Why do you think the Senate refused to give Caesar the honor and glory that Caesar thought he deserved for these victories? Why won't the Senate give him these places? Why won't the Senate make these Gallic places that he's taken over part of Rome? Why do you think, Amber?
I don't know.
Well, if the Senate gives him that honor, is that going to make Caesar more popular or less popular?
Popular.
Of course it is. And does the Senate want Caesar to become more popular, Amber?
No.
No, the Senate's against him. They go the opposite. They tell Caesar he's a murderer. They say, you pick these fights. Caesar bragged that he might have killed 1 million Gauls. People might argue today that that's genocide. Genocide is when you intentionally try to kill an entire culture or race of people. So the Senate said, Caesar, you're not a hero. You're a killer. You're a murderer. You picked fights that you shouldn't have picked. And so the Senate was doing the opposite. For now, though, we're at Elysia, the battle that could have changed everything. So after Gergovia, Caesar and his army surrounded Vercingetorix and his troops. Vercingetorix was in a city called Elysia. Elysia is a town on top of a pretty tall hill, almost a mountain. And so Caesar couldn't really attack it because it was too high. Now, Caesar's army was a little bit smaller maybe than Vercingetorix, or maybe the same size. Can't remember the exact numbers, and I'm not sure we know the exact numbers. But Caesar surrounded the hill. So Vercingetorix is trapped, but Caesar can't really get in there. And then something interesting happens. Vercingetorix gets a messenger to sneak past Caesar's siege and tell the other people in Gaul to come help him. Remember, a siege is a very particular type of warfare. Do you remember what a siege is, William? It's one of your key terms from all the way back during the Punic Wars.
Siege is...
So if you're attacking a city that's like high on a hill or with really high walls and you think you just can't get into the city, it would be too hard. A siege is another way. So what would the strategy of a siege be, William? What are you trying to do to the people in the city?
Trying to stop supplies and food, drinks.
Great memory, William. Right. You surround the city, not letting food in, not letting water in, not letting supplies in, not letting reinforcements in. You're trying to make sure that the other side is going to starve to death. You're basically running for the people inside the city to run out of food and water. There's a problem with this plan, though, guys. Caesar is laying siege to Elysia, to Vercingetorix and his army in the city, but he's not in friendly territory. He's deep in Gaul. He has enemies all around him. And Vercingetorix has just put out the call for these enemies, including his family, to come to his aid. And I promise you that with the full weight of Gaul coming down on him, that Caesar is going to find himself in big trouble. And it looks like this is going to be the end, because Vercingetorix is on the inside, Caesar's in the middle, and then Vercingetorix's friends are on the outside. Caesar is the cheese in a grilled cheese sandwich. He's about to get mushed. Questions so far? You guys think Caesar's going to get out of this? Vercingetorix on the inside, up on the hill in the city. Vercingetorix's Gallic friends on the outside. Caesar's much, much smaller army stuck in the middle of all of the warriors of Gaul. This is not something that anyone can get out of, but as you know, Caesar's not ready to die yet. You know he doesn't die till 44 BCE, so something spectacular has to happen, and I'm not going to tell you what that spectacular thing is until next week. Cliffhanger. Remember what cliffhanger is? When you leave off right at the really important moment, and I don't tell you to the next time. But I will take questions right now on anything else you have. I'm not going to tell you what happens at Elysia or how Caesar might get out of it, but I'll answer any questions about things before that. Who's got any question about Caesar and Gaul or anything we've learned about today? Raise your hand if you are not ready for me to take the slide off the screen. All right, I'm going to do it. As always, I will post all of the slides and the Crassus video into the WeChat group. You can review it, make sure you have all your key terms. As always, if you have any questions, you can stick around after class with me, and I will answer any questions you might have. You guys, as usual, are wonderful. I love all your questions that you're asking in the middle of the lesson. Any more questions before I let you go? All right, you guys know what I like. If you know more questions, turn on your audio, and please wish everybody a wonderful week, and I will see you next Wednesday night. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, William. Thank you, Megan. Thanks, Dengmo. Thank you, Amber.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.